In 1971, Richard Nixon went on television and said 7 words that changed every single person on Earth. He said, "We are closing the gold window. Done. No warning, no vote, no permission asked." If you want to understand how money really works, subscribe. This channel is where the real story gets told. In one sentence, America detached its currency from anything real. No gold, no backing, nothing. Just paper and a promise from a government that had just lied to the world about Vietnam. And here's the insane part. Nothing collapsed. The dollar did not die, it got stronger. Because by that point the trap was already set. The entire world had been running on dollars for 27 years. Every contract, every debt, every barrel of oil, every trade route on every ocean, all of it denominated in one currency, controlled by one country. Switching was not an option. It was like trying to change the language of the internet overnight, so the world swallowed it. And America learned the most dangerous lesson a superpower can ever learn, that there are no consequences, that you can rewrite the rules mid-game, and everyone will still sit at your table because they have nowhere else to go. In 1944, America offered the world a deal. We will be the bank. We will be stable. Trust us, by 1971, America showed what that trust was actually worth. And the countries that were paying attention started quietly asking one question. If America can do this once, what stops them from doing it again? That question did not go away, it grew. In 1973, America had a problem, a serious one. The dollar was losing trust, countries were nervous, the gold was gone, and the Middle East had just cut off oil to the West and watched the entire global economy start suffocating in real time. America needed a new anchor for the dollar, something as universal as gold, something every single country on Earth would always need. So in 1974, Henry Kissinger flew to Saudi Arabia and made a deal so quiet that the American public would not find out about it for decades. The terms were simple. Saudi Arabia sells oil only in dollars. Every nation on Earth that wants energy must first buy dollars. In return, America provides weapons, protection, and a guarantee that the House of Saud stays in power forever. No treaty, no public agreement, just a handshake between a diplomat and a kingdom. And just like that, the dollar had its new gold. Not a metal sitting in a vault, but a liquid that every factory, every car, every military on Earth burns through every single day. The genius of it was almost evil. America did not need to produce anything, did not need to earn anything. It just needed to keep the arrangement alive. And for 50 years, it did exactly that. But here's what Kissinger never told the Saudis. Every deal built on fear and dependency has an expiration date. And in 2022, that date suddenly appeared on the calendar. On February 26, 2022, the United States and its allies did something that had never been done before in modern history. They froze $300 billion belonging to the Russian central bank. Not sanctioned, not restricted, frozen, gone. Inaccessible overnight. Washington called it the ultimate financial weapon. The message was clear. Cross us and we will erase your savings with a single phone call. But in the war rooms of Beijing, Riyadh, New Delhi, and Dubai, the reaction was not fear. It was something far more dangerous to America. It was a question. If they did this to Russia, what stops them from doing this to us? Within months, China accelerated its plans to settle oil trades in Yuan. Saudi Arabia opened serious conversations about pricing oil outside the dollar. For the first time in 50 years, India started buying Russian oil and paying in rupees. Central banks across the world quietly started moving reserves into gold at the fastest rate recorded since 1967. America had designed the perfect weapon, but it forgot one critical thing. A weapon that can be used against anyone will eventually make everyone your enemy. The freeze did not weaken the global dollar system. It cracked the psychological foundation that the entire system rested on, and that foundation was trust. You can rebuild an economy, you can rebuild an army, but once 30 central banks around the world start asking the same question at the same time, you cannot put that back in the bottle. The dominoes were not falling yet, but they were leaning. While American news channels were debating tweets and election drama, something historic was being built in complete silence. In 2023, Saudi Arabia joined the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, not as an observer, as a partner. The same Saudi Arabia that shook hands with Kissinger in 1974 was now sitting at a table with China and Russia. That same year, BRICS expanded for the first time in over a decade. 6 new countries joined, including the UAE, including Saudi Arabia, including Iran. Together, these nations control over 40% of the world's oil supply. And they were all in the same room talking about one thing: how to trade without the dollar. China and Brazil settled a major trade deal entirely in yuan, not a small transaction. $50 billion worth of trade rerouted away from the dollar system in a single agreement. And here's the number that should stop you cold. In 2024, central banks around the world bought more gold than in any year since 1950. Not because gold is fashionable, because when you do not trust the currency of a country that can freeze your reserves on a Monday morning, you go back to the only money that cannot be printed. None of this made major headlines, because it was not happening loudly. It was happening the way the most irreversible changes always happen: slowly, quietly, and then all at once. The alternative was not ready yet, but it was no longer just an idea. It had addresses, signatures, and moving parts, and America was still looking the other way. Here's the honest answer that nobody on television will give you. The dollar's not going to collapse tomorrow, but the world your parents grew up in, where one country set the rules for everyone else, that world is already over. It just has not finished falling yet. The system built in 1944 survived because there was no alternative. The system reinforced in 1974 survived because oil made it unavoidable. But in 2025, there are alternatives. They're imperfect, they're fragile, but they exist and they are growing every single year. Three things can happen from here. America adapts, pulls back, fixes its debt, and earns trust again the hard way. The world moves to a system where the dollar is one currency among many, not the only one, or the transition happens fast and messy, and ordinary people around the world pay the price in inflation, frozen savings, and economic chaos they never saw coming. The scary part is that none of these outcomes are decided by presidents or generals. They are decided by millions of quiet decisions made by central banks, trade ministers, and finance officials in rooms with no cameras. The empire of the dollar was never built on gold. It was never built on oil. It was built on the belief that America would play fair. That belief is now the most valuable and most fragile thing in the global economy. And belief once broken is the hardest thing in the world to rebuild. If this made you think, subscribe, and drop a comment below. What do you think happens next?